Okay, so for, like, I just want to clarify right now, we got to get through some stuff. It seems like people are really chatty today. If you're one of those people, Jack, if you're one of those people, identify that and tell yourself to shut up. Not trying to be rude, but this whole morning, like, people are really chatty today. I'm not going to keep correcting behavior. We're past the first quarter. We're in the 7th grade. You guys know how to behave. If you can't be in here and not chat, the door's right there. Well, there is no door. The way to leave my classroom is right there. If you don't want to be in here, you're not going to negatively impact your classmates. So if you can't stop talking, that's your option. Today, the 7th, we're going to continue on with what we talked about Friday. Who can bring us back to what we were talking about Friday, what this all kind of relates to? Abby, you weren't even here, but did you watch the video? Or no, maybe you were back on Friday. Yeah, you weren't here Thursday. Sorry, you want to wrap up? What do we talk about? What is this lesson all about? So you want to continue or you want to pass off?
We were talking about initial investments.
Ooh, what is the initial investment? So the amount that I put into the bank.
Wouldn't it be that's the principal?
Yeah, that's our principal amount. What else do I need to know to figure out how much money I'm going to make? Anthony?
The interest rate.
The interest rate. And really, the interest rate is what we identify, or like we identify it by looking for what? How do we know something is our interest rate? In the problem, it's going to have a percent sign. Yeah, so our interest rate is really our percent. What's the last thing we need to know how much money we're going to make? Izzy? That we already talked about that, so that's the amount that we start with, right? So you're right, we need the principal, but we already identified that. So the principal, the interest rate, yeah. The time, and the time when we talk about it has to, Grace, be in years. So we will get to a couple problems today where we have to convert time from months to years. Anyone get done with their homework already over the weekend? You did 3-3 and you're through it? That's fine. Like, we did not do much of the lesson. I was just curious if anyone was like, yeah, let's get some math done. So we finished out this problem, right? We found out, and if you don't have this, please write it. I equals P times R times T is my formula. We found out he made $120 off investing $400, made 0.05, and he left it there for 6 years. Now, that is the amount of interest that he earned. We're going to come back to this here in just a minute because we're going to introduce another financial term. But I did not want to overload you guys, which is why I'm letting this take a little bit longer than it normally has. So let's try this problem. Suppose we deposit $500 in the bank. We're going to leave it there with an interest rate of 1.2%. Oh, we did this one already? Sweet. I forget classic. The issue happens when I teach your guys' class again in the afternoon. We end up in a different place almost always, and then I got to remember back. Did we talk about this? No. So if I set up my interest formula, just go ahead and set this up. I equals P times R times T. We had another formula that we've been using a lot, and it's one of the ones over on my chalkboard. To find a part, I need percent times whole. Now, if I try to relate these formulas, Anthony already told me that my rate is really the percent value. Abby told me that the principal is the amount that we start with, which would really be our whole. What am I missing to compare these two formulas? Hayden? Time. Now, what could I sub in? What number could I replace my t with that won't change anything? CJ? Oh, 1. So if I made this times 1, that won't change a thing. So what we're trying to see here is this part formula is really how we solve the interest for 1 year. If you know how to apply this formula, part equals percent times whole, all you then have to do is multiply by how many years, and you've turned into a simple interest formula. So our part formula, our base percent equation, part equals percent times whole, that is our simple interest formula, just for 1 year. The only way it changes is I then can multiply by however many years we had. And every year, just do it. Don't try to be quiet, just do it. Yeah. Every year that this happens, it does the same thing. This is why it's simple. If you want to eat it, now you made it awkward. Lily has goldfish, in case anyone didn't know. Justin. It won't. So that's the thing about how these accounts are set up. I love that question. So this is where it's different from like a credit card. My credit card has a variable interest. Well, mine is relative. Mine I have locked in. But a general credit card will often have a variable interest rate. A home loan could have an adjustable rate. That's, bless you, it's an ARM, adjustable rate mortgage. So an account, a bank account, once you open it with a certain percentage, almost always that's your account. Like that is what you get. It's not going to change. Now, if I go and take all my money out and put it back in and like restart a different account, I could get a different interest rate potentially. But I'm going to get whatever rate the bank is offering at that time. And then I'm just stuck there. Does that make sense? Where like that rate won't change. I like the question. Now, if it could, let's say there's like some investment accounts that your rate will never go down. But if it can go up, they'll let it go up. So to answer that question, what if your rate changes? If my rate goes down, then my year interest would go down. If my rate went up, my year interest would go up. But then if it stays the same, it'll again copy every year after that. We now need to talk about a new word called balance. I do not mean balance like tree pose balance. I mean financial balance. What is a balance? Xavier? Yeah, I mean, that's what's on your paper. But if we talk in generally, like if somebody asks you, hey, what's your balance? Everything that you have. So your balance here, it is the principal plus the interest. But off to the side so that we really understand what we're talking about, you could just write everything you have. Everything. All together. So if we go back up to the very first intro problem. Right here. What was my principal amount, CJ? All the way at the top. How much money did we invest to start? $100, right? What is my interest amount that I'm making every year, Shane? Yeah, 2%, and that just so happens to be $2 if we look at how much money we make. So, Grace, after 3 years, what would be our balance? Our balance. So, I don't know how much space you guys have off to the edge of your paper. I'm going to come back to you, Grace. Right here, and I know making these brackets is a little bit hard. I want you to bracket out that $2, $2, $2. That's the interest earned. Bracket out this 100. That's the principal. But if we bracket the whole thing, this is your balance. So, Grace, I will come back to you. To find our balance, we're going to add up what in this situation? Yeah, so I made $6 interest. I had $100 principal. In total, I now in my account have $106. And if you are investing money, you're hoping that that balance is more than you started with. In my case, I am celebrating every time my balance goes down because I'm trying to pay something off. Really many things. House, car, school. Most people in the adult world, well, I don't know most people. A lot of people in my generation are paying off house, car, school. School is probably the top one. Huh? Yeah, because it's like covering. It's supposed to. Like a sideways umbrella.
Would you be covering your toes?
Yeah, but that comes from my job. I don't have to pay for that necessarily. It comes out of my insurance. So, if we look right here, you guys should have all this still filled in, which is nice that your notes keep their value. This was 120. Hayden, if I look for the balance in this problem, for this middle one where you deposited $400 and stuff, how would I find that balance? You can look on your notes because it should be filled in on your notes. What'd you start with? We already did all that. We already did all of this last week. If you don't have it on your paper, that says something about how you're taking notes or not taking notes.
Oh, you add the interest in.
Yeah, we started with 400. We add our 120, and the balance here becomes 520. Finding the balance is not complicated if you already had the interest. Do not look at a problem and try to jump right to the balance. That's a bad idea. Find your interest first, then add it with your principal. So let's look over here on the back. So bank manager has this poster. You walk in, he's advertising. Look, if you have $2,500 right now to deposit, which is really funny, every time I log into my bank account, Chase is like, would you like an extra or I forget how much, I think they're saying $500 for free. A bonus $500. If you only deposit over $25,000 in a new such and such account. Like what? Yeah, Chase, I have an extra $25,000 sitting around that I'm going to deposit just to get that little bonus. But if you had an extra $2,500 sitting around that you could deposit into the bank right now, you could get a 3.5% interest rate, which really is a good interest rate right now. So let's find out the simple interest earned at each of these steps. So this going down this table will be the total earned, not how much you earned in year 2. It's the total earned after 2 years. So if I look at the total earned after 0 years, so Maylee, this is not a trick question. If I look for total interest earned after 0 years, how much interest would I earn after no time? 0. Which means that my balance would be, careful. So this is where 0 years is hard to think about. 0 years means I just started. Like I just started. So if we just started the account, how much money was in the account? So my balance is $2,500. Now to calculate my interest earned in 1 year, I can set up I equals my $2,500 principal times my rate. Well, what's my rate here, Abby? It is 3.5%, but in rate form, I have to divide that by 100. I get 0.035. Well, if I'm looking just for the first year, this would just be times 1. Andrew, what do you get? Justin, you got it? 87.5. So $87.50. Now that's how much I made in 1 year. How could I figure out how much I made in 2 years? Justin? Okay. Just double the amount that you made. So that doubled comes out to be $175. If I add another $87.50 or go back to my original $87.50 and triple it, after 3 years, we will have earned a total of and after 4 years in the account, we could have earned $350. Now, Lily, if we move over to the balance row, or column, what would be my balance after year 1? After year 1? So if I started at $2,500, I made this much interest. We said balance is just principal plus interest.
So, 2,500 times plus 87.
Yeah. So 2,587.50. My balance after year 2. Now, this is where mistakes happen. Please give me your eyes for a second. Every year, somebody's rushing, they're not listening, and this is where mistakes happen. To find this blank right here, we are not taking this value and adding this value to it, because this value is the total interest made after 2 years. So to find your year 2 balance, you again start with the original principal, add the interest earned, and then you get your value. Because balance is principal plus interest, not the previous balance plus it's principal amount plus interest earned at this point. Andrew?
Can you also add the previous amount with year 1?
Boom. If I know that every year I get the same amount, I could also just take this balance and add $87.50 to get my new balance. And I could do that every single time if I wanted, because I know I'm making $87.50 every year. Hayden, do you have the balance? All right, hit me with them.
2,675.
Okay.
And then 2,762.
And
2,850.
questions, which in Spanish is preguntas,
Oh my goodness.
which is one of my favorite words because you get to roll the R and it just sounds fun.
What if you can't roll your R?
Work on it. I forget there's certain words that you can practice. Seriously, so this is again, I just love letting you guys screw with teachers because, it's kind of fun. If you want to screw with Senor Combs, tomorrow when you're in class, raise your hand and say, tengo un pregunta, or una, because that means I have one or a question. Or you could say tengo pregunta, if you just say, I have question. But it's more proper to say tengo una pregunta. I have. Well, yeah, you would need a question then to follow that up with. All right, what is missing? I want to see who's got their analytical brain turned on. Read this, got it, and tell me what we're missing. I guess we should. Who knows what a CD, not compact disc you buy your music on, who knows what a CD is when talking about a bank? Okay, this is something worth talking about then. So, we'll come back to the question of what we're missing. A CD. Let me play this out again. So, Casey, are you looking to make an investment today? Sure. Casey wants to make an investment. Now, Casey, I have this account that you can put your money in and you can get your money out whenever you want. It has a 2% interest rate. But if you're willing to let me keep your money for at least a year, so you can't touch it for a year, I can give you a better interest rate and you will make more money if you'll just let me hang on to it. Now, you could, if let's say there's an emergency and you have to get your money, I'll give it back to you, but you're going to pay a little bit of a penalty. So some of that interest that you made, you're going to give to me. But if you wait for the whole year, you'll get everything. Which would you prefer? Yeah, the one where you make more money, right? Making more money is better. That's what a CD is. It stands for a certificate of deposit. So, I would take my fancy certificate of deposit, and now I would take Casey's money, say, I've got your money, and you've got this paper that says that I've got your money. Now, if Casey waits that entire year, she brings me that certificate and says, I'd like my money back, and she gets her money and her extra interest and gets to go to dinner for free, or whatever she decides to spend her money on. So, a CD is different from an account only in that you're supposed to not touch your money. Like, your money is kind of inaccessible. Now, you can get to it, but you're supposed to not touch it. Any questions on what a CD is? Jaheem? Because they are giving you a better interest rate. So say I'm the bank. I take Casey's money, and I know that she's not going to come get it back. I loan that out to Xavier. I know that Casey's not going to want her money back, so I give it to Xavier. Xavier is going to pay me back extra money, and then I use some of that to pay back Casey's extra money. Make sense? So that's just my security to say Casey's not going to come asking for her money. Now, if she does, maybe Lily made an investment with me, and I don't have Casey's money because I gave it to Xavier, so instead I gave Casey Lily's money, but it doesn't matter. I just have to give people money. So the banks are constantly just like changing hands. Who's got the money? Have you ever seen the shell games of like where's the marble? It's kind of that. Like whose money is where. It doesn't matter. It's all just money. So back to this. Now that we know what a CD is, it's a special type of investment account. Let's identify what we do know. We're going to open a CD with a $5,000 deposit. So since that's our deposit, that's our principal, I'm going to go ahead and notate that's my principal. He wants to have, so if this is what he has, well then that would actually probably be my balance. How long is the question I'm being asked to answer? So that would be our time, is what we're being asked to answer. Justin?
Can I give you the answer?
No. You can give me some information to help us get there. I would really appreciate that.
Alright, so start with 5,000 and the rate is 3.5, so...
Ooh, now hold up. You're assuming that we're using the same rate as up top.
That's what it says.
Okay. That's where, so this is where I was trying to push us. This does not explicitly tell you the rate. So be careful. If he looks at the manager's poster, if we are going to use the previous rate, then that would tell me that the rate is what? 3.5%, which I can convert to decimal form. So be careful to carefully read. If this was like on a standardized test or something, you might have to realize those two questions are related to each other. Continue then.
Alright, so we need to convert that into decimal. So 0.035. And we multiply it by 5,000.
Are we looking for how much money he made? What are we trying to figure out?
I'm trying to find out how long it'll take me to get $5,500 in the CD.
So if I know that my equation is I equals P times R times T, I know the P, I can fill in the 5,000. I know the rate, you've already told me, 0.035. I'm looking for the time, but I can't solve for time and interest. I can't solve for two variables at the same time. I can only solve for one variable. Ooh, Shane? I know Justin knows. Do you know? How do we figure out how much interest he earned? Compare his final balance with his starting principal. What's the difference between them? That's how much he made. So he made, or he wants to make, $500. Questions? How we figured that out?
How did you find out what the time was?
We don't know yet. We still don't know the time. We're getting there. Because it says he wants to have 5,500. So he wants to earn 500. The math he's solving for is how long will it take me? So he's trying to agree. When you go to the bank and you open a CD, you kind of get to negotiate. Say, well, if I leave it in for 1 year, what will you offer me? If I leave it in for 2 years, what will you offer me? The longer you leave your money in the bank, the better they will offer you, the better rate they will offer you. If you're curious about this stuff, like, ask your parents to take you to the bank and go talk to a banker. They would love to have kids in there asking questions. Justin? No. It's your money. You can do whatever you want.
So you could like go around the country, like put like $50 in each, and they get like a yearly paycheck, and like $10 in each.
Yeah. If you find banks with good interest rates, and if you have the money to do that.
I feel you have to find enough banks and have more rate.
And if you have enough money to do that. You gotta have that start money. Xavier?
If you go to a bank that you've never been to, but you like go to like an ATM or something from that bank, don't they charge you for getting
Depends on if they're like in network or not. So like some banks are like partners where I may not have a Huntington ATM that I can go to, but if I go to a Fifth Third ATM, they might be partnered and I might not have to pay a fee. And actually, so sometimes you have to pay two fees. You pay one to the machine, to the ATM, and to my bank for not accessing the money the right way. Now, they don't care because they make money off that fee, but they're just going to fee me. Like, yeah. Hayden? Ooh, yeah, that would be. If you're interested in finances, go shadow a banker for a day. I'd say I'd connect you with my dad, but he's in Coshocton, and I doubt you want to drive an hour. Is he? Yeah, now a CD, you can't just like take some. If you go to get your money, you get all of it. An account, like just a bank account, like a savings account, checking account, you can put money in, take money out whenever you want. But a CD kind of like locks your money together. So Justin had told us, do this multiplication because we can. We can multiply these values together. So I'm going to do that and get 500 equals, please write this down with me. It will be very important on your homework. 5,000 times 0.035, you got it?
175.
175.
That's 1 year.
Ooh, wait. Yeah, no, we can still use this value. So that's the amount of interest. Justin has figured out that if I just solve this and I make my time 1, that's the amount of interest I get in 1 year. But to figure out how long we need to leave it here, we need to get t by itself. And to do that, we need to get rid of Miss Suddendorf hiding over there. What do we need to get rid of to get the t by itself? We need to get rid of the 175. How do I do that? I divide by 175 on both sides. And we find out that our t is going to be, well, what's 500 divided by 175? Lily?
2.857.
What? Start over.
2.857.
All right, that's good enough. It continues. Weird, right?
2 years and 8 months.
No, be careful. The decimal conversion is not direct. You would need to multiply that 0.857 by 12 to figure out how many months that actually is. But. So here's the thing. If he wants 5,500 at least, could he leave his money in for longer? So what could be the CD that he agrees to? How long could he leave his money in there? Like the easy thing. Shane? 3 years. If he leaves his money in for 3 years, he'll have over 5,500. So this would be the minimum amount of time to get his $500 interest. Anything longer, he gets more. Any questions? So now we're going to look at Mia and Alex. Alex and Mia have 2 different accounts. They start with 2 different amounts of interest. And they start with 2 different principals and 2 different interest rates. I want this side of the room, you're solving for Alex. This side of the room, you're solving for Mia. We have 2 things to solve out. First off, what is the interest that they earn in 8 months? Second off, what's the balance that they now have after 8 months? So right here, above it, that intro, if your time is not in years. To convert, all we need to do is divide by 12. So if you're given your time in months, divide it by 12 to convert to years. So you guys can work partners, small group. If you get done with that, move on to that next audit, dealing with 16 months. You know what we're doing? You need help? So we check with you. What do I set up? Is this formula, or we got to convert our time of 8 months to a year? So I would probably do this. I would probably say, okay, this is 8 months. So 8 months. Okay, so say if I have months, I need to actually divide by 12. So when you go to set up your time to that 8 is 12. But everything else stays the same. You got your principal amount, you got your rate, and you just got to plug in your time. All right, CJ, you are next in the stack. So we will start with Mia. So I've got my formula here. Principal, rate, I need my time. What'd you do for your time? Time is not 1 year. 8 months. So to convert that to years, we have to. It is on your paper. Look on your paper. We just talked about it before I had you start this problem. If you're given time in months, Look at the step above that. You take the months and you divide. How many months are in a year? 12. So we take it and we divide by 12. So CJ, I need you to make sure that you have this work written out. Principal times rate. Our time here is 8 over 12, which that would actually be 2/3 if you simplify it. But guys, type it in the calculator just like this. Parentheses, 8 divided by 12, parentheses. I can do this whole multiplication as one string. 3,000 times 0.025 times parenthesis 8 divided by 12 parentheses. Same with Alex with the 8 divided by 12. So CJ, did you guys calculate how much interest Mia earned? That would be for the whole year. So you need to go back and fix your calculations. I need to see that pencil going. Anthony?
In 8 months, you would make $56.55.
Yeah, it should be 50. Check your math. I bet you typed something wrong. So that makes her balance $3,050. For Alex... Oh, Colin disappeared. That was going to work out perfectly. Oh, yeah, sorry. I need to move that card. I remember seeing him this morning. Still not... Casey, finally somebody on that side. Yes, I know. I just pulled his card out. I had to make the, connection in my head. Thanks. I made that change, so I'm aware of it. I just forget everything. Like, I literally, if it's not written down, if I'm not currently doing it, it might as well just be forgotten. Bring it back. Casey, do you have the interest that Alex made? Anybody on that side have... I think that would be for the... So, guys, and I don't have time to let my camera thing boot up, but if you are holding a calculator, look at Alex's side right now. Give me your eyes, unless you're looking down for the calculator. We want to type in 2,950, so 2,950 times 0.04, because that's for 4%. Whether or not you put this first zero doesn't really matter. After the decimal, everything does matter. Then times, open up a parentheses, type 8 divided by 12. Then you need to close the parentheses. When you hit enter on that, you should get $78.67. Well, once you round up. So then his balance will be 3,000. Sorry, I need a zero. $28.67. If you want a challenge, because we'll pick up right here tomorrow, figure out who's got more money after 16 months. We will pick up right here tomorrow.
Adios.
Adios, amigos. Tú tienes un buen día.